The city was quiet. Too quiet. Smoke still hung in the air, and the sky glowed faint red from fires that refused to die. Streets that once echoed with laughter now lay in silence. Inside a small home at the edge of the ruins, a mother sat in front of a broken holoscreen. Her hands trembled as she pressed the button again and again. The screen flickered, then showed the cold, official broadcast of the war. Civilian casualties. Total confirmed deaths, list of the lost. Her eyes scanned the names, each one stabbing like a blade. Then she saw it. Her heart stopped. Her daughter's name. The screen repeated it in a lifeless tone, as if it were just another number. Confirmed dead in the Battle of Miralus. No image, no body. Just words. The mother's breath caught in her chest. For a moment, she could not move. Then the tears came, hot and endless. She pressed her face into her hands, shaking, whispering the same words again and again. No, not her, not my child. But something was wrong. The message gave no details, no time, no witness, no proof. Only the name, placed coldly on a list. She stared at the screen again. Why no image? Why no confirmation? Others had received messages with more details. Some even had final images sent by the military. But hers was empty dot, empty dot. Her mind screamed. Something was not right. The war had been brutal. Everyone knew the aliens showed no mercy. Cities were burned, families torn apart, survivors were rare. And yet, deep in her heart, she felt a spark of doubt. What if the report was wrong? What if her daughter was still alive, out there somewhere in the ruins of the war? The thought refused. To leave her dot, she moved to the small table by the window. On it lay a picture of her daughter, smiling brightly, holding a flower. The image was old, but the warmth in those eyes was still alive in her memory. The mother touched the photo, whispering, "If you're out there, I will find you, no matter what." Outside, thunder rolled, not from the sky, but from ships high. Above, alien patrols circled, hunting survivors, keeping humans afraid. The war was not over. For the people on the ground, it would never be over. But the mother was not thinking of war now. She was thinking of one face, one child, her daughter. She tried to rest that night, but sleep refused to come. Every sound in the dark made her sit up, listening. The house creaked. Wind whistled through the broken window. She thought she heard footsteps in the street, but when she looked, nothing was there. Her heart would not calm. Her mind replayed the message again and again. Confirmed dead, but no proof, no final words. Only silence. It was too empty. Too cold. And emptiness met hope. The next morning, she left the house. She carried nothing but the picture of her daughter and a small pack of food. The city was still, dangerous, with alien patrols roaming the ruins. But she did not care. She would search the wreckage herself if she had to. Her feet carried her through the broken streets. Each step felt heavier than the last. She saw the burned homes, the crushed vehicles, the walls painted black with ash. She saw the places where people had fallen. But in her heart, she searched for one thing: her child. Then, in the silence of the ruins, she heard something new, a faint sound, not the hum of alien ships, not the crack of falling stone. Something else, a voice, distant, weak. She froze, her breath sharp in her throat. She could not understand the words, but it was human. A man's voice. Her eyes widened. Survivors. She pressed herself against a wall, peering through the broken street. In the distance, she saw movement of figures stumbling through the ruins. He carried something in his arms, cradled against his chest. For a moment, she thought it was just debris. But then the figure shifted, and she saw a small arm, pale and fragile, hanging loosely. A child. Her heart slammed in her chest. She wanted to run forward, to shout, to scream her daughter's name. But fear held her still. What if it wasn't her? What if it was a trick? What if the aliens used it as bait? She stayed hidden, watching with wide eyes. The man staggered closer, his body bloody and broken. His uniform was torn, but she recognized it at once, a human soldier. And in his arms, a child. The mother covered her mouth, tears rushing again, her whole body trembling. Dotted. Couldn't be dotted, couldn't. But deep inside, her heart whispered the truth. The message was wrong. The war had not taken her daughter. Something else was happening. Something bigger. And humanity was not finished yet. The human soldier, the soldier's steps were heavy. His boots dragged across the broken ground, leaving faint marks in the dust and ash. His breath came in short bursts, rough and painful, but he did not stop. In his arms, wrapped in his torn jacket, was a child. The little girl was silent. Her small head rested against his chest, her hair tangled and dirty, her face pale. From a distance, she looked lifeless. But the soldier knew better. He had heard her faint cry beneath the ruins. He had pulled her free with bloodied hands. She was alive, though weak, so very weak. And now she was his responsibility. The city around him was dead. Buildings broken, streets cracked, shadows stretching long beneath the dim glow of alien patrol lights in the sky. Every corner could hide. Danger. Every sound could mean discovery. He pressed his back against a wall, eyes scanning the sky. A drone floated past, humming, its bright eye searching. The soldier held his breath, pressing the child closer, hiding both of them in the dark. The drone moved on. Only when the sound faded did he dare to move again. His name was Captain Rylan. Kane. He had fought since the first day of the war. He had seen cities fall, comrades vanish, and enemies swarm like endless waves. Yet in all that time, nothing had struck him deeper than this one small child, abandoned in the rubble, forgotten by both armies. When he had found her, something inside him had changed. Orders didn't matter anymore. His mission wasn't survival or victory. It was her. He whispered softly as he walked. "Stay with me, little one. I'll get you out." The girl stirred slightly, her lips parting. A weak sound came out, barely more than a breath. "Mama," Ryland's chest tightened. His jaw clenched. He looked down at her and forced a smile, even though she could not see it. "I'll bring you to her," he said. "I promise." Every promise in war was dangerous. Soldiers died every day, breaking promises they could not keep. But this one felt different. This one felt necessary. Raylan moved carefully through the ruins, heading toward the evacuation zone he had memorized before the battle collapsed. If he could reach the human lines, she would be safe. Doctors could treat her, families could protect her. But between him and safety was a city full of enemies. He stopped at an alley and crouched low, listening. Voices carried on the wind. Harsh, guttural alien words echoed through the streets. A patrol. Ryland's hand slipped to his sidearm. The weapon was old, the power cell nearly empty, but it was all he had left. He checked it once, then adjusted the girl in his arms. He couldn't fight with her in his hands. Not like this. He looked around and spotted a hollow in the wall. A broken doorway, just large enough to hide her. Carefully, gently, he placed her inside, tucking his jacket tighter around her small body. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "I'll be right back." Her eyes fluttered, half open, but she didn't speak. Raylan turned and faced the street. The aliens appeared moments later, tall figures with armor that gleamed faintly under the dim light. They moved in groups of 3, their weapons long and sharp. their steps heavy. Their eyes scanned the ruins, hungry for survivors. Raylan waited, his heart steady, his finger tight on the trigger. The first one stepped too close. One shot. A silent flash. The alien fell. The others turned, snarling. Raylan moved fast, slipping between shadows, firing again. Another fell, its weapon clattering. The third raised its rifle, but Raylan threw himself forward, slamming into it. The fight was brutal, silent, but fierce. The alien struck with claws, slicing across Raylan's arm. Pain burned, but he didn't let go. He pulled his knife and drove it upward, ending the struggle. The alien collapsed. Raylan stood over the bodies, breathing hard, his arm bleeding. He wiped the blood from his face and hurried back to the hollow. The girl was still there, eyes closed, her small chest rising and falling. Relief washed through him. He picked her up again, holding her close. The city groaned in the distance, metal breaking, stone falling, ships rumbling in the sky. The war wasn't finished. The enemy wasn't gone. And soon more would come searching. Raylan looked down at the girl, then toward the horizon, where faint lights marked the human line's dot. It was far. Too far, but he had no choice. Just a little longer, he whispered to her. We'll make it. He moved again, slipping through alleys and shadows, his body aching, his wounds slowing him, but his grip on the child never loosening. Behind him, alien patrols began to spread wider. Somewhere above, a warship roared, its engines shaking the ground. The hunt had begun. The soldier's steps quickened. He could feel the net closing around him. He could feel the danger pressing in from all sides. But in his heart, one truth burned, brighter than the fear. This child was alive, and he would not let the galaxy take her. Captain Raylan Kane moved quickly through the ruins, holding the child close. Every sound made his heart beat faster. The city was alive with danger. Alien patrols swept the streets, searching for survivors. Their voices echoed in the distance, harsh and cruel, followed by the metallic clatter of their weapons. The girl in his arms stirred weakly, her small hands clutching at his torn jacket. Her eyes opened for a moment, cloudy with pain and exhaustion. She whispered something faint, almost too soft to hear. Mama. Raylan looked down at her, forcing a smile. I'll get you to her, he promised. I won't stop until you're safe. Her eyes closed again, but the sound of that one word Mama burned into his mind. He knew then this was not just survival. This was a mission. A mission he could not fail. The streets were no longer safe. Drones buzzed overhead, scanning every corner. Alien soldiers moved in groups, dragging humans from hiding places, leaving no one alive. Raylan pressed himself against walls, slipping into alleys. Whenever the patrols passed, his body ached from wounds, but he did not let the child slip from his arm's dot. As he turned a corner, a spotlight swept across the street. He froze, pressing himself against the wall, covering the girl with his body. The light moved past. For a moment, he dared to breathe again, but then came the sound of footsteps. Heavy, close. He pulled his weapon, but his power cell was nearly empty. He couldn't fight a squad, not with her in his arms. He scanned quickly, desperate for an escape dot at the far end of the street. He saw a broken sewer grate, just wide enough. Without hesitation, he sprinted. Shouts followed him. The aliens had seen him. Bolts of energy tore through the air, burning into the walls around him. He clutched the girl tighter and leapt, sliding into the dark hole, just as a blast scorched the ground where he had stood. The tunnel was damp and foul, the air thick with rot, but it was shelter. He crouched low, moving through the darkness. His breath sharp and uneven dot above, the aliens searched, their voices echoing in anger. They know we're here. Rylan whispered to the girl. She did not answer, but her small chest still rose and fell. It was enough. The tunnel stretched on, leading toward the edge of the city. Rylan moved slowly, carefully. He knew they would not give up. Once the enemy had a scent, they followed. Until nothing was left, he thought back to the battlefield, to the ruins where he had found her. So many had fallen that day. Soldiers, civilians, families burned and buried. And yet, from that hell, he had pulled this small child. A child the enemy had left for dead. Why had they missed her? Why had they not finished the job? The thought chilled him. Perhaps it was chance. Or perhaps the aliens had meant to let her suffer. Suddenly, a sound ahead. Splashing. Movement. Rylan stopped, crouching lower, holding the girl tighter. His eyes strained in the darkness. A faint glow appeared, alien lights. They were in the tunnels, too. Rylan pressed himself against the wall, hiding in the shadows. The girl stirred again, letting out a weak whimper. His heart froze. The sound was small, but in the silence it echoed. The lights grew closer. He had no choice. He turned, moving quickly down another branch of the tunnel, his boots splashing in the filthy water. Shouts followed him. The aliens had heard the chase had begun. He ran, every step sending pain through his battered body. The girl's weight slowed him, but he refused to let go. Behind him, the aliens roared, their lights cutting through the dark, their weapons firing bolts of energy that scorched the tunnel walls. Rylan ducked into a side passage, crouching low. He pressed himself against the wall as the soldiers stormed. Past. For a moment, he thought they had lost him. Then, one of the aliens turned, sniffing the air. Its eyes narrowed. It stepped toward him. Rylan's hand shot to his knife. He had no bullets left. It would have to be silent. The alien raised its weapon, but Rylan was faster. He lunged forward, the blade flashing in the dark. The struggle was quick but brutal. The alien fell without a sound. He caught his breath, shaking, then picked the girl back up. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him weakly, lips trembling. "Mama, waiting." His throat tightened. "Yes," he whispered. "She's waiting, and we'll get to her." Above the tunnels, explosions shook the ground. Alien warships circled, their engines rumbling like thunder. The city was no longer a battleground. It was a trap. Rylan moved. Again, knowing he had little time left. The evacuation point was still far. The girl was weakening with every moment, and the enemy was closing in from all sides. But he kept going. Because giving up was not an option. Because in his arms, humanity's promise lived on. Captain Rylan Kane climbed out of the tunnels, gasping for fresh air. The night sky above was thick with smoke and fire. Alien warships hovered in the distance, their searchlights sweeping across the ruined city. The girl in his arms stirred faintly, her head resting against his chest. She was getting weaker. "Just a little more," Rylan whispered. His voice was rough, but steady. "Hold on." He scanned the streets. The evacuation point was still miles away, beyond the river. If he could cross the industrial zone, he might make it. But something in his gut told him the enemy was already waiting. He kept low, moving through shadows. His body screamed with pain. Wounds from the last fight burned, blood soaking his sleeve. Yet he didn't slow down. His eyes never left the horizon. The city groaned with the sound of machines. Alien patrols spread out, dragging spotlights across the ground. He avoided them, slipping through alleys and broken buildings. Every step was a battle between exhaustion and duty. Suddenly, he stopped. Ahead, at the edge of the square, dozens of alien soldiers stood waiting. Their armor glinted in the firelight. Their weapons pointed outward. It was a wall of death. Raylan's chest tightened. They knew. They had predicted his path. This was no random patrol. This was a trap. The girl moved slightly in his arms, her lips parting, cold. She whispered weakly. Raylan adjusted his jacket, pulling it tighter around her. His voice softened. "Stay with me. I'll get you through." But his mind raced. He could not fight this many. He could not go back. The tunnels behind were crawling. With more soldiers, the only way was forward. And yet, how? The aliens began to spread out, their eyes glowing faintly, scanning the ruins. One of them raised its hand, and the other stopped. Silence filled the air. Then came a single order, sharp and final. Find him. The soldiers moved. Raylan ducked behind rubble, holding the girl close. His heart pounded. He could hear them. Getting closer, boots crunching against stone. This wasn't a hunt. This was a slow tightening of a noose. He took a deep breath. He had one chance. Not to fight, but to outsmart them. He spotted a broken fuel tanker nearby, its surface cracked and leaking. Flammable liquid pooled on the ground, spreading into the dirt. Raylan's mind calculated quickly. He set the girl down gently behind a wall, brushing her hair from her face. "I need you to be very quiet now," he whispered. "I'll come back. Don't move. Don't make a sound." Her small eyes flickered, open, clouded with exhaustion, but she nodded faintly. Raylan touched her cheek once, then turned toward the tanker dot. The aliens drew closer, their weapons raised. Raylan crouched low, pulling the last grenade from his belt. He only had one. He checked the pin, then glanced at the fuel pool dot timing. That was all that mattered dot as the first alien patrol neared the tanker. Raylan stood from the shadows. "Hey!" he shouted, his voice rough but strong. The aliens turned sharply. Raylan pulled the pin and threw. The grenade clattered against the tanker. A spark. A second of silence. Then the world erupted. The explosion tore through the square, fire roaring. Upward, swallowing everything in its path. Alien soldiers screamed as flames consumed them, their weapons melting in their hands. The shockwave ripped across the street, sending rubble flying. Raylan threw himself over the girl, shielding her from the blast. Heat scorched his back, fire licking the edges of his jacket. His ears rang, but he did not let go. When the flames settled, the square was chaos. Alien bodies burned in the wreckage. Smoke filled the air. But the trap had been broken. Raylan stood, his chest heaving. He picked up the girl again and pressed forward, stumbling through fire and ash. But the victory was short. Lived above. A warship turned its searchlight directly on him. The ground shook as it descended, massive cannons shifting into place. Its engines roared like thunder, drowning out every other sound. And then through the ship's speakers, a voice echoed across the ruins. Raylan Kane. The sound froze. Him in place. The girl whimpered weakly in his arms. But Raylan's eyes locked on the warship. It had spoken his name. Alien warships never called humans by name. They never recognized individuals. Yet this one knew him. It had found him. The spotlight burned brighter, trapping him in the open. Soldiers began to regroup, forming a circle. He had broken one trap, only to step into another. Raylan's jaw tightened. His mind raced. He could see no way out. But he refused to let the girl go. If this was the end, then he would face it standing. The warship's cannons glowed, ready to fire. The aliens raised their weapons, closing in. The child stirred, whispering one word again. "Mama." Raylan tightened his grip, and then, against all expectation, another voice cut through the night. A voice not alien, a voice human. The battlefield fell silent. The alien soldiers froze, their weapons still aimed at Captain Raylan Kane. The massive warship above hummed with energy. its cannons glowing brighter. And then, through the static-filled speakers, came that impossible sound again. A voice. Human. "Commander Kane?" it said, calm, steady, familiar. Raylan's breath caught in his throat. For a moment, he thought his mind was playing tricks. He had been alone for so long, hunted and broken. Hearing his name in a human voice felt unreal. The aliens looked at each other, confused. Warships did not speak human language. Their systems were locked, their codes unbreakable. Yet this one spoke as if it had always belonged to him. The girl in his arms stirred weakly, her eyes opening just enough to whisper, "Someone's calling you." Ryland stared at the sky. Impossible. He muttered. The warship's engines roared louder, shaking the ground. The alien commander shouted an order, pointing toward Ryland. Soldiers began to close in again, their formation tightening. But before they could move, the warship's cannons rotated not at Ryland, but at the aliens. A flash of light split the night. The first blast tore through the alien ranks, vaporizing half a squad. Screams echoed as soldiers scattered in confusion. The second blast struck the ruins behind them, sending fire and debris raining across the square. Raylan shielded the girl as the ground shook. His heart pounded. He had seen this ship before. Not in enemy hands. But under his command, it wasn't just any warship. It was his memories flooded his mind. Years ago, he had led a fleet into battle. This ship had been his flagship, the Resolute. It had carried his men, his friends, his hope. When the war turned against them, the fleet was scattered, and he believed the Resolute destroyed. But here it was. Not destroyed, not captured, waiting, watching. And now it had found him. "Commander Kane," the voice repeated, louder this time. Authentication confirmed. "Orders?" Ryland's throat tightened. The aliens had sprung a trap, but it had backfired. They thought he was a helpless prisoner. They thought he was broken. But the warship knew better. It remembered him. The alien commander roared, raising its weapon. "Kill him now." The soldiers charged, but the Resolute answered first. Dozens of cannons lit up, spitting fire and thunder. Explosions ripped through the square, turning night into blazing day. Alien bodies fell like shadows in a storm. Their screams were drowned by the ship's fury. Raylan stood frozen, the girl in his arms, as fire rained down around him. The Resolute wasn't just firing at the enemy, it was protecting him. Every blast struck with precision, clearing the path ahead, but never touching where he stood. The ship remembered him. "Orders." "Commander," the voice said again, steady and loyal. Ryland forced himself to speak, his voice low but firm. "Evacuation. Priority. Civilian protection." "Confirmed," the ship replied. Dropships detached from the warship, streaking down like comets. They landed hard, their hatches opening. Human soldiers in battered but proud armor spilled out, weapons ready. They moved with discipline, cutting down the remaining aliens with precision fire. Raylan's chest tightened. He wasn't alone anymore. Humanity still fought. The girl looked up weakly at the soldiers, her small voice trembling. "Humans?" "Yes," Ryland said softly, holding her close. "Humans." The last of the aliens tried to flee, but the warship's cannons silenced them one by one. The square was left in ruins, fire glowing against the night. A soldier ran to Ryland, saluting sharply. His armor was scarred, his face weary, but his eyes burned with respect. "Commander Kane." The soldier said, "We thought you were dead." Ryland adjusted his grip on the girl. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. "Not yet." The warship hovered above, its engines roaring like a living beast. Its voice came again, echoing across the ruins. "Commander." "Kane, welcome back," Ryland's eyes narrowed. The ship had saved him, but it had also found him, and that meant something darker. The aliens hadn't just been hunting him randomly. They had known exactly where to set the trap. Someone had betrayed him. The girl whispered again, her voice barely audible. "Mama." Waiting, Ryland's grip tightened. He looked at the warship, then at the burning city. The enemy had failed tonight. But the war wasn't over. Not by a long shot. He turned to the soldier at his side. "We move now. Get her to safety. Then we strike back." The soldier nodded without hesitation. And above them, the warship's cannons glowed once more, ready for his command. The aliens had thought the human was. Helpless dot, they were wrong. The warship had spoken, and the galaxy would tremble. The city still burned behind them, but Ryland Kane did not look back. With the girl held close, he followed the human soldiers toward the waiting dropship. The ground shook as the Resolute hovered overhead, its cannons sweeping the horizon. The soldiers moved with sharp discipline, covering every corner. They were fewer than he remembered, their armor scarred, their faces tired. Yet their eyes lit up when they saw him, as if a ghost had returned to life. One soldier spoke softly to another. "It's really him. The commander survived." Ryland heard, but said nothing. His mind was on the girl. She was weak, her breaths shallow. If she didn't get medical help soon, she wouldn't last out inside the dropship. The air was thick with the scent of fuel and metal. The girl was laid on a stretcher, medics rushing to stabilize her. Machines beeped, voices barked orders. Ryland stood nearby, his fists clenched, refusing to step away. The lead medic glanced at him. "She's strong, sir, but she's been through hell. We'll keep her alive." Ryland gave a short nod. His chest loosened slightly. But the question remained, where had she come from? As the dropship lifted off, Ryland turned his eyes to the soldier at his side. "How long have you been out here? How did the Resolute survive?" The soldier hesitated, as if the weight of years pressed on his tongue. Finally, he spoke. "After the fleet broke apart, we thought the Resolute lost. But she wasn't. Her AI kept fighting, protecting what was left of us. For years, she's been searching for survivors for you. She never stopped." Raylan's jaw tightened. He remembered the ship's AI, loyal, intelligent, built to adapt. "And the girl?" he asked. The soldier's face darkened. "She was found months ago, hiding in the ruins. We tried to protect her, but the aliens kept hunting. She said she was waiting for someone, a man who would take her home." Ryland looked down at her pale face. She had clung to hope when no one else could. Somehow, she had believed in him before even knowing his name. The dropship docked inside the Resolute. The great hangar doors closed behind them with a thunderous clang. Soldiers saluted as Ryland stepped onto the deck. The ship's lights glowed. Brighter, almost a live dot, and then the voice came again. "Commander Kane, this vessel has missed you." Ryland placed a hand on the cold steel wall. "You waited," he said quietly. "Affirmative," the AI replied. "I was programmed to serve, but I chose to survive for you." The words carried weight. This ship wasn't just metal and wires. It was loyalty forged through fire and loss. The girl stirred on the stretcher, her voice a faint whisper. "Mama." Still waiting. Rayland bent low, brushing her hair from her face. "Rest now. You'll see her soon." But even as he spoke, unease twisted in his chest. The aliens had set a perfect trap, one that should have guaranteed his death. Yet he had survived. Not by chance. By design, which meant someone wanted him alive. Someone knew the Resolute would come. Later, in the command chamber, Ryland stood before the ship's glowing interface. The AI projected a map of the galaxy, red zones marking alien-occupied worlds. The scale of destruction was immense. Whole colonies wiped out, fleets shattered, but one blue light pulsed far away, isolated and faint. The AI spoke. Signal detected. Human survivors. The child's origin point. Raylan's eyes narrowed. A human outpost? Still alive? Against all odds? The girl's words echoed in his head, Mama. Waiting, his fists clenched. Set a course. The soldiers around him exchanged looks. One finally spoke. Sir, if that's really a human colony, the aliens will be watching it. They'll expect us to go there. It could be another trap. Ryland turned, his eyes hard. Then let them wait. We're going anyway. Silence followed. Then slowly the soldiers nodded. Their loyalty wasn't to safety. It was to him. The Resolute's engines rumbled, a sound like thunder rising from the depths of space. The hangar vibrated, lights flickering. For the first time in years, the warship had a commander again. The AI's voice carried across the bridge. Course locked. Awaiting your word, Commander. Ryland stared at the star map, at the single blue light pulsing like a heartbeat. He thought of the girl, of her mother, of the countless others who might still be waiting in silence, believing they had been forgotten. Not anymore. His voice was steady, iron in the fire. Take us there. The stars stretched before them as the Resolute roared into the void. The girl lay in the medical bay, her chest rising and falling with fragile hope. The soldiers prepared for war, their spirits lifted by the return of their commander. The aliens had believed humanity broken. They had believed their traps would crush the last survivors, but they had not counted on this. They had not counted on a miracle. And soon the galaxy would learn what it meant when a warship would end. Her commander fought as one. The Resolute cut through the void like a blade, its engines blazing bright. For days it followed the faint signal, the only human colony left on the map. On the bridge, Ryland stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes never left. A star map. That single blue light pulsed softly, almost fragile. It was hope, but also a target dot in the medical bay. The girl's condition improved. Color slowly returned to her cheeks. She whispered less about death and more about home. Sometimes she clutched Ryland's sleeve and whispered, "You'll take me to Mama, right?" And every time, Ryland gave the same answer. "Yes, I promise." But the aliens knew too. As the Resolute neared the coordinates, alarms blared across the ship. The AI's voice rang out, calm but sharp. Enemy fleet detected, 40 vessels. Positioning to intercept. The soldiers on the bridge tensed. 40 ships. Against one. But Ryland did not flinch. His voice cut through the fear. We hold course. That colony survives tonight, or none of us do. The soldiers exchanged glances, then saluted. They would follow him anywhere. The enemy fleet appeared out of the darkness-jagged alien cruisers, their weapons glowing with deadly light. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding the Resolute. One of the soldiers muttered, "They were waiting for us." Ryland's jaw tightened. Of course they were. The colony was bait, but he would not run. Not now, not ever. The AI spoke again. "Commander Kane, enemy fire incoming. Raise shields," Ryland ordered, "and prepare every weapon we have." The first barrage struck. The Resolute shook, sparks flying across the bridge. Hull plating groaned under the pressure. But the ship held. "Return fire," Ryland commanded. Cannons roared, slicing through the dark. Explosions blossomed as 2 enemy ships went down in flames. The soldiers on the bridge cheered, their fear burning into fury. But more alien vessels closed in, their fire relentless. The ship shook again and again. Warning lights flashed red. The AI's voice was calm, but heavy. Commander, odds of survival are decreasing. Raylan's eyes burned with defiance. We're not here to survive. We're here to win. In the medical bay, the girl woke as the ship trembled. She whispered, her voice weak but steady. Mama, please. The medic tried to calm her, but she shook her head. He'll find her. I know he will. Even in her weakness, she believed. On the bridge, Rylan gave the order that would shake the stars. Bring us into close range. Target their flagship. The crew stared at him. It was madness. Against 40 ships, diving toward the largest? It was suicide. But then they remembered who stood before them. Rylan Kane, the commander who had never surrendered. The man their warship had waited for. Slowly, one by one, they nodded. Double quotes I, Commander. The Resolute surged forward, its engines screaming. Alien fire rained down, tearing across its armor. But the warship roared back with all its fury, unleashing a storm of firepower. Enemy ships exploded one after another, the void lit with burning wrecks. The Resolute carved a path straight through the fleet, unstoppable. Finally, it reached the flagship. Raylan's voice thundered. All weapons, fire. Every cannon, every missile, every ounce of power the ship had left was unleashed in one blinding storm. The alien flagship shattered, breaking apart in a wave of fire. The enemy fleet faltered. Without their leader, their formation broke. Some ships fled, others fell to the Resolute's guns. The void was left burning, the wreckage of 40. Ships drifting silently, but victory had its price. The Resolute was scarred, her hull torn, her systems failing. Smoke filled the bridge, lights flickered. Soldiers slumped in exhaustion, their bodies bruised, their hearts still racing. And yet, they were alive. The AI's voice came, faint, but steady. Commander Kane, enemy fleet destroyed. Colony is safe. Rylan closed his eyes, breathing deep. Good, that's all that matters. When they reached the colony, the sight struck every soul on board. Against the darkness of war, a settlement still stood. Lights glowed in the windows, fragile but unbroken. Humans real, living humans came rushing out, waving, crying, cheering. Among them, a woman fell to her knees, her eyes wide with tears. The girl in the stretcher stirred, her face lighting. Up with the first true smile Rylan had ever seen on her. Mama, she whispered. Rylan lifted her gently in his arms, carrying her down the ramp. The crowd parted as the woman ran forward, tears streaming down her face. Mother and daughter collided in an embrace so strong it silenced the world. The girl's laughter mixed with her mother's sobs, a sound that cut through the ruins of war, and made it feel, for one fragile moment, like peace. Rylan stood back, watching quietly. The soldiers gathered near, their eyes shining with pride. The AI's voice hummed softly in his ear. Commander Kane, was this worth it? Rylan's gaze lingered on the girl's smile, on her mother's tears, on the colony still standing against all odds. His answer was firm. Every second. Resolute loomed above, scarred but unbroken. Its cannons were silent, but ready. Its engines burned, but steady. The galaxy would remember this night. The night one warship, one commander, and one miracle answered the darkness. And humanity's answer was clear. They would never stop fighting.